Okay, Bashusi, let me go on familiarizing you with my wife and her family. Okay, I figure you and I are going to be like a couple pledged to each other in an arranged marriage. Okay, and we've been pledged in this arranged marriage, and we haven't met yet, but we both know that we've been pledged by our families to marry, and we've accepted that. This is like an ancient Asian rite that's being continued through us. Only the arranger of this marriage is Adonai. I'm going to call the arranger. He's arranging the marriage. And if you've accepted it, then this is like those arranged marriages from 1,000 years ago in Asia. Okay, so we're going to marry. We're pledged to each other, and so now we're learning about each other at a distance without having met at all. We're like a traditional couple from 1,000 years ago in your country. All right? So let me go on familiarizing you at a distance with the family you're going to be joining, since Adonai is bringing you and me together. He's arranged this marriage. Okay, so my wife's family is unusual for people in the West here. Very unusual. And let me say that my wife does not like me talking about her family at all. Okay? It's like, this is verboten, but I don't have any choice. I'm riding a coconut raft to get off Devil's Island, and making these revelations is part of my coconut raft that I'm riding on. Sorry, I have to do this to get off Devil's Island. So, let me say that my wife had a father who effectively had two wives. I've already said that. And he did move openly. This is not a hidden affair of any kind between the two households. And as I said, when he passed away, his assets were legally divided between these two households. They were. It wasn't like somebody's going to say, hey, he was the same as a husband to me and I should have part. No. This person rightfully, by law, was entitled to a share of the inheritance left by my wife's father when he passed away. There was no question about it. Okay, so here's something interesting about her family in addition to that. Let me mention, first of all, that an older brother of hers passed away from food poisoning. Okay? This was an older brother, I'm just guessing, because I'm not sure about this, maybe 2 or 3 years older than my wife. And he died of food poisoning at a young age, as a child. Now, moving on from that, her family, I don't want to be more concrete. How many kids in the family, I'm not going to say. But there were multiple children in the family. And the parents brought this orphan into the family to be a kind of child care person to help take care of the children. And this orphan came into the family as a young girl herself. I'm not sure the exact age, but she was still under 18, let's say. Okay? And, well, what the family did was, after a while, seeing what a good person this orphan was, the family adopted this orphan into the family as a full-fledged child of the family. Let me make this note about the family taking in this orphan, okay? I've been making arguments on this kind of thing in my own life story, okay? Where arguments other than the expected might explain something better than the expected, okay? Now, didn't I say my wife observed that her family's having to make a home for themselves in this impoverished area of the city due to her father's not participating in the armed forces of South Korea during that war? Put the family in this odd position where the poor folks around this seemingly wealthy man's medical clinic are looking on my wife, a highly deprived deaf person, with mean, envious eyes. Okay? Well, isn't that possibly why the parents adopt an orphan into the family? What my wife was saying was absolutely confirmed by this bringing of the orphan into the family. The poor people around that clinic were not just focusing their nasty glares on my wife. We are seeing confirmation here of what my wife was saying because the parents felt that too. So to counteract that nasty, angry, poor folks gaze, the parents say, hey, we're bringing an orphan into the family, a poor orphan. Like us better now? Well, I would say that is probably the reason why the family brought that orphan in. They probably didn't need someone to help them take care of their kids. They needed to take care of the nasty glares of these folks gathering like the poor folks in France around the aristocrats who are about to put in a guillotine, right? That's what they were dealing with. And I'm saying that my wife's personal her perceptions are all confirmed by this way of explaining what happened. That it wasn't just my wife feeling that, like these were some kind of idiosyncratic perceptions of hers. No, they were shared by her parents and probably her siblings as well. This is an orphan who is now a brother and sister to the other children in the family. Legally, a sibling. Now, I just want to mention that because in my experience as an American, this is a very rare phenomenon. Americans do adopt, but most of the time they're going to adopt a baby as if they had this baby themselves. They want that baby as soon after it's born as they can get that baby. It is rare for anybody. I mean, I hear about foster children. I don't know much about that, I must admit, but I've seen on TV, where there are attempts to get foster children adopted by families, and it seems to be a very difficult task. When a child is like between 10 and 20, getting some family to adopt that child seems to be, to me, at a great distance, a very difficult task, because I've seen programs on TV where some kids just are not getting adopted. They're even on TV as if being advertised, and they're not getting adopted. Okay. Well, I don't have any statistics, and I'm just talking about what I've seen as an individual, and I can't speak as an authority in any way on this subject. Okay. Now, I just want to say that my wife, was deaf from birth, pretty much. Okay, although she claims to have been able to hear a certain amount until she was like 3 years old. Like she could hear the telephone ring, she says, and this kind of thing. And but after the age of 3, her hearing completely vanished, pretty much, and she became profoundly deaf. And well, her father, you see, and mother were from where? They were from North Korea. And they came down from North Korea at the time of the Korean War because the father was from what you call a wealthy landowning family. Okay, and those wealthy landowners, they were not liked by the communists. And as I would imagine happened in the USSR, in Russia, the lands were being appropriated and they were being put in prison or killed, right? At the time of the communist takeover of North Korea. Now, I have read nothing about that at all. Okay, now, her father came down from North Korea at the time of the war. Now, he was a young doctor at that time, but it was at the time of the war that he brought his family to South Korea. So he wasn't like joining up with any armies or anything. He was trying to see to the survival of his family, okay, and himself and his family. That was his concern. He wasn't going to join up. He'd been dislocated. He didn't have a place to live and so on. He had to somehow find a place to live in the South and so he was not taking part in that war. And for that reason, he got punished by the South Korean government later. How? Well, my wife tells me that because he had not been in the army during that war, he was not allowed to buy land in certain places in Seoul, where he had moved to from North Korea, to set up his medical practice. So for that reason, he had to set up his medical practice in an impoverished part of the city, my wife says. Okay, so the result of that was he has this clinic, which is like a building, okay? And the family lives like on a floor of that, 1 or 2 floors of that building. And, the building has medical offices in it and like an x-ray machine, this kind of heavy, complex medical machinery. This is the way they do things, or they did things in Korea, not like here. Okay? And so her father had to set up his medical practice in this impoverished part of town. So what happens? My wife is profoundly deaf, and she has deaf siblings as well. And the surrounding population are folks that are deprived in their way also. They're deprived by being poor. And what are they doing looking on this seemingly wealthy family in their midst? They're looking on them with, well, not friendly eyes, according to my wife, okay? My wife is saying that here she is, she's a deaf, nearly helpless person in the society, okay? It was very hard for deaf people in Korea at that time. She says, my wife says, it looks like things have got much better for folks there who were deaf, but at her time, when she was a kid, it was not a happy time at all to be deaf in Seoul, Korea. So, would you like a shopkeeper to come and throw salt on you when you enter his shop because he's ridding his shop of evil spirits, namely you? You're the evil spirit because you're deaf. Would you like that? Would you like people mocking you in public because you spoke in sign language and others see you do it and they're going to mock you openly to your face for doing that? Would you like to live in that kind of a world? Would you like to have people cheating you out of your change? When you pay them a certain amount, you know they're supposed to give you a certain amount back and they don't do it. You're deaf, you're going to argue? No, you're not. You're going to get cheated here, cheated there, bullied here and bullied there. That was her life. Okay? So, she's as if she's a wealthy, spoiled child of a wealthy family, and she's nothing of the kind. She's someone who's profoundly deaf, suffering the deprivations of somebody who's unable to hear, and my wife is also unable to talk. So this is a wealthy, spoiled girl, huh? In a wealthy family. No, it's not. And she lives in this kind of nasty environment where accusing eyes are looking at her accusingly. She's somehow the undeserved, spoiled brat of the wealthy when she's, as I say, this is not her at all. So she grows up in that environment, and well, the family brings this orphan in and makes this orphan a child of its own. And, well, the father is a successful doctor. He has a successful medical practice. And I just wanted to let you know a little about my wife, that's all. That's all from me for now. Bye for now. Bashuasi, let me add this footnote about my wife. Sephora, she had to ride public transportation to and from deaf school. Okay? And she would ride the bus, and she told me about experiences like that. And, well, when she was around 18, 19, guess what she catches riding the bus to Seoul, Korea? I'm forgetting the name of the damn disease. It's the disease that that kills the poet John Keats. Okay? And it killed, as far as I know, D.H. Lawrence. And I'm still not able to remember the name. I'm calling this this forgetfulness. I'm saying this is not dementia. This is what Freud called paramnesia. It's kind of neurosis when you're talking to somebody as if you're buddy friends. And I don't mean you, Bashuasi. I mean, this is going out to the public, this video, and the public is my friend. No, it's not. So I'm saying my consciousness revolts at certain times when I'm being open and friendly like this, and my mind says, AJ, who are you talking to? They've done this to you, they've done that to you. This is your friend you're talking to? No, it isn't. So my mind shuts off in a kind of neurotic symptom. It shuts off. And I don't even remember the damn name of that disease that almost killed my wife because she came down with it. And the doctor says to her, you have 6 months to live. You're going to die of this disease. I can't remember the damn name of it. Anyway, this is what she hears. By the way, she was suffering from that disease. She wasn't just like, oh, I'm just normal and they find I got a disease. No. She was hardly able to breathe. And she was so exhausted from the slightest movement, she could hardly move around. She was laying down in bed. She was dying. It's the disease that kills the heroine of that that movie Moulin Rouge. That woman who was, what is she called? The glittering diamond? The sparkling diamond? She has that disease and she dies of it. What's the name of the disease? I don't remember. It's the first time I've ever forgotten it. Okay? It's not typhoid fever. No, it's tuberculosis. She came down with TB, tuberculosis, and the doctor says she's got 6 months to live. So she felt that way too. I'm not just saying, it's not just like, you often hear somebody comes down with cancer or something and they don't seem to be suffering. But my wife was. She couldn't breathe and she was listless. She was suffering. She was suffering for quite a while before she was diagnosed to have this disease. And then by the time she's diagnosed, she's told she's going to die. So this is something about my wife that you ought to know. This is somebody who, I got to say, has endured immense personal suffering that she didn't deserve to suffer at all. She just drew that lot in life, and she's overcome it. Okay, you may be able to see the purpose of this recording, right? See how my wife and I fit together? My wife is a spoiled, rich girl in her country. Spoiled, undeserving, rich brat of a wealthy family. And that's what I am, right? I'm the spoiled, undeserving, rich boy. Bethesda, Maryland, the most affluent county, or one of the most affluent counties in the United States. And that's who I am. So, because my behavior is not appropriate to the wonderful medical doctor there that America's been glorifying, even now 30 years after his death, I'm not only the undeserving, spoiled brat of Bethesda, I'm also crazy. I'm legally crazy as a hoot owl as well. Isn't this a great place to live for somebody like me? So me and my wife, we're the same, right? Both like this. There she is over there. Let me see her. Bye for now.